welcome all of you here. I think we've got a great kind of small, intimate group. You're not in hot seat. You're just here so that hopefully the camera, maybe let's let them see you. If you'll change seats with me. Hopefully they can actually see you in Carbondale. There's a little trouble with the podium, but they're working on that for this afternoon as well. And I just wanted to let everyone know we're here as well as in Carbondale. We will reconvene back in the main auditorium at 11 o'clock. So all of the three groups will come back and kind of share what they found out in their groups, what the community providers and the veterans had to say. And we have some, every group has the same questions, but you can feel free to, add comments as needed. Amy Abbott from Brentwood is going to be taking any kind of comments or questions from Carbondale. So they have the ability to give us comments. And so just interrupt at any time. The first question, kind of for you, and then the group, you guys can all just jump in. This is a very interactive piece of the day. As you were experiencing your road to recovery, what community and VA services worked for you? So what worked well for you?
The RRTP was, I cannot believe how much I did not want to go there. I was so against it. I was like, no, I cannot go there for 8 months. But that ended up being, thank God I didn't have to make that decision. That was made for me. And Jane Wilson and the local rehab representative, Marion, they gave me a chance, and that helped build my confidence, and because I was without a job or anything for 5 years. I mean, I was in the Navy for 5 years, and I did so well. I mean, I just accomplished it, continuously. And for 5 years, I did nothing but go from one drug house to another, and I can't even believe I came out alive. And so being able to work with veterans, and they had more faith in me than I did. And then the continuous relapse prevention that I met, at the VA when they didn't have. And the constant, how are you doing, just checking in with me, all the time, because I needed to be accountable. I had to be accountable.
What about in the community? Were there any services in the community? It sounds like the vast majority of what you utilized were VA services.
It always has been.
Always has been.
It always has been. Ever since the first day that I got out of the Navy.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
What's the facility like, the RRTC? Can you describe what it looks like? I'm curious.
Brand new facility. When I got there, I think it was a $3 million kitchen. I mean, it was every single KitchenAid appliance, it seemed like that was possible. They would take us to the movies. They would take us bowling. They took us to this confidence course out there in Carbondale somewhere, where we had to harness up, and at the end you slide down the zip line. I mean, they paid for all of this. And also we would go shopping. We would do our own grocery shopping twice a week. Of course, we had a diet. Nothing with sugar. We could have anything with sugar. So we had a nutritionist would come in the afternoon and help us learn how to cook. A nutritious meal. I had my own room, my own bathroom. I mean, my family would come visit me, and they were like, we felt bad for you at first. But you're on vacation.
And the women's section, they have in this facility, the RRTP, They have their own area for the females who are in that program.
Yes, I had my own bedroom and my own bathroom. And it was nice. At that time, it was the nicest place I had ever stayed. It really was. I mean, comfortable bed. It was just brand new everything. If you needed something, you didn't have it, they would go buy it for you. If it was cold, you needed a jacket, they would buy it for you. They took us to Walmart. They got us doing things that we would normally not do. You know, even going to Walmart, you know. So, and then of course, a full day full of different groups and.
I didn't pick up on this in your previous talk, but did you ever finish your degree? Well, you need to get on that.
Yeah, 4 years of college, and then of course my GI Bill ran out, and then now they do have other ways that I can go back to college, and I have been checking in on them. And so now it's kind of, I have this full-time job, and I've just kind of slacked off a little bit of going to, because at first I was a full-time student, and then I also had a full-time job, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do this, but I say luckily, but luckily I got laid off, and I was like, yes, it's perfect, unemployment and GI Bill, so that's when I started really getting bad, and then that's when I ended up dropping off the second time. But I was very close. Very close. And then
That's what it sounded like.
I got financial aid, spent all that money. I'm now paying back the Department of Education. And they said after you pay them for 6 months, and then you can go back to college. So that has happened already.
Cool.
So now I am able to go back to college. That just recently happened too, because I couldn't afford to pay back Ivy Tech what I owed them. They took the GI Bill back.
Cool.
So.
It sounds like you're aligning yourself so that when and if you're ready, you can go back.
And I was a straight A student, so.
That doesn't surprise.
I was, so I'm not going to go into it until I know. I was ready then, and I want the A, you know.
I want the A. Well, the next question, what barriers, and I've got a text here, sound is bad in EMP, employment and education. Okay, I'm going to say the next question. I'm going to walk next door. What barriers did you encounter when attempting to obtain services? What did you need that you could not find? And I'll be back.
Maybe
I was so blessed. I was so blessed. I mean, they were throwing, services at me, and I was like, I can't take this. This is too much, my days were, they were full. And plus, I was depressed also. So if I wasn't in AA, or if I wasn't meeting with my sponsor or at work, then I would fall asleep reading, my AA book or whatever. I was so fortunate to have the VA behind me. Everything, I could do everything at work. It was like, who gets this treatment, And so, I mean, I can't really think of any services.
Tell us about some of the services you did receive.
The Lucas place too. Okay, I was homeless veteran. I got to move into the apartment. I didn't have to pay rent for a whole year. I was in compensated work therapy, which is not considered income. So I made minimum wage. Of course, I didn't get holiday pay and all that. I had to be at work to make money. And that was good money for me. No rent. All I had was my insurance on my car, which I only paid liability, so that was, not very much. And of course, I had fees to pay, which I never did pay to, but I always ended up waiting to get my tax check and just pay it all off at one time. And I got food stamps. So that was huge then. I mean, that was huge. It helped me realize how fortunate I was. because I know how fast things get taken away. I know how fast, and I relapsed. I did. I relapsed 3 times while I was on the program. And they would put me on home breathalyzer. And I had to stay on for 6 months, and it was very expensive. And so,
Is there one factor that you can point to that really led to your success, or one person who was particularly helpful in the VA? Or was it a
There's
combination of
so many.
something?
Jan Wilson is one, Rich Coolidge, Greg Farmer, Joe Williams.
What did they do to help you?
They believed me. They gave me a chance when I didn't even think I deserved it. And it was just a beauty.
How did it change you?
It made me realize all the support I had, which I didn't. I mean, I was ashamed to go around my family. I could not face them. I did not want them, and I was not willing to do anything about it. I just lost so much confidence, and I really wanted to die. You know, I really did. I didn't know I was not going to kill myself. I was too scared. I didn't have the courage to do that, but I was just hoping that I would. And really, the opportunity to work at the VA was huge. It was so huge. I mean, I felt so privileged to be able to go there, even if I was a housekeeper. I wanted to be a housekeeper. And I wanted to clean everything really good. And I was the only, and I'm still the only female housekeeper. And I'm still the only female that has been through vet court in Vanderbilt County.
Wow.
I'm still the only
That's
one.
awesome.
I don't know if it's awesome or not. It was, but now I'm thinking, oh no. Hopefully there's somebody out there that, you know, that may have heard my story, but I don't really know how to feel about it anymore. I'm thinking I'm the only one again. But I don't dwell on it anymore, you know. But still, it's been over 3 years now, and I'm still the only female that has been to vet court in the
Well,
county.
you're talking about vet court, and we probably should have done this to begin with, to just introduce yourself and say where you're from. But Jennifer Fry is now our Veterans Justice Outreach Worker, and so she has worked, right? You guys have worked together.
Absolutely.
And so we're so glad to have you. But if folks should just real quick, let us know your name and where you work.
Sarah Laurie, I work at the VA.
As our HUD Bash
Yes, I'm the HUD Badge case manager.
case manager.
I'm Cheryl Bennett. I'm the director of nursing at Brentwood Meadows
Brand new, brand spanking new.
Yes.
and a veteran, Army veteran.
All right.
I'm Kristen Blickenen. I'm a social worker at Evansville State Hospital.
I'm Linda Simmons, and I'm a very part-time psychotherapist, social worker with the Katie Wellness Institute.
I'm Robin Smith. I'm faculty here at USI Nursing. So if you have anything you would like nurses to know that I can pound in their head in class, please share with me, because I will pound it in. And I'm former Army myself.
I'm Charles Smith. I'm a psychologist at State Hospital.
And one of my bosses, one of my many bosses. Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think he's awesome.
My name is Sandy Smith. I'm Heather's sponsor. My husband's also a veteran.
We're so glad that you came.
Erin Davis with Swerka and More.
I introduced myself once.
Oh, you already did? She's a real boss. Dr. Buchanan. So I didn't get to hear the piece in terms of barriers. The next question, it had to do with what kind of possible solutions can help remove any barriers that you mentioned. Were you able to pick up on that? And as a group, to kind of come up with, were there any real barriers? No? Okay, wow.
It sounds like the barrier was in yourself. that you
Oh,
sort of
yes,
read.
absolutely.
Okay.
So maybe as a question.
Oh, I just thought of one.
Yes.
I started using drugs very young. So, since I did that, I could not find anything that I enjoyed more. It didn't matter what it was. That was the problem. Anything that you can do to keep, you know, you start really young, you know, and keep them, you know, away from drugs completely. Because I couldn't find anything I enjoyed more. It didn't matter they took me to confidence school. It did not matter that we went bowling. It didn't matter we went movie. I was just like, you know, it's just I never got happy, you know. So I really don't know, you know, what you can tell someone like that, you know, because I understand. It was working at the VA that made me happy. It really was. I love going to work. You know, I make sure my uniform is ironed every day, you know.
Starched and ironed. Yes.
That's awesome, that's awesome. But you started to say something.
What I've seen, me and Heather go back a long, long way. We've been friends for many years. And I was also her sponsor. I have seen it give her great confidence. She was the kind of person that had no confidence in herself. You know, she was always felt somebody browbeating her and she just, you know, go with the flow. But this program has gave her great confidence. She stands up for herself now. And that's something I've always wanted her to do. And she is. She's come a long, long way. I'm so proud of her.
I have a question.
It made me speak real loud.
All those years that you didn't seek help, how could we reach other women veterans to get them into all these services that could help them?
Good question, because I haven't really met any other veterans, only one or two. There was two at the rehab. That's how I came. That's why I keep thinking, oh my gosh, I'm the only, you know, female veteran. Where are they? They're probably hiding somewhere.
Sounds like they're not getting diverted to the vet court.
Right.
Or they're not even going to the VA.
Some representatives go to the jails and the prisons.
Oh, yes.
That'd be great. You would find out.
That's what I do. That's
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yes, and I was reading, I just read this, it was a speech. I wanted to read somebody else's speech, and it was when they first started the vet court treatment. This was in 2013, but I know they started it before that. But it was a conference that they had, and I did not realize how important the yes, that is so wonderful. I cannot believe that. I mean, they are going to prisons, they're going to jails, and I don't even know how I got so lucky. I really don't. I mean, thank God.
Blessing.
Yeah.
Jennifer, is there anything else as VJO that you want to share with the rest of the community in terms of what you do provide or how your services could reach more veterans?
The biggest thing to know is just that we do offer the jail outreach. So if you ever hear of a veteran who is incarcerated, to please contact us and let us know so we can do that outreach. Because if we don't know they're there, then we can't do the outreach to see them. So that would be one of the biggest things that
And
would
I
be
think
helpful.
the other big piece is that veterans not realizing that they can even enroll in VA services. I have received a phone call from one of our local hospitals many months ago. They actually had 3 veterans hospitalized at the same time on a psychiatric unit, and none of the 3 veterans had ever been enrolled in the VA. So it's real difficult for us to provide a service if we don't have them. So we were able that same day, between that day and the next day, to get those veterans enrolled over the phone in our Evansville office, and one of them was being discharged the next day, even got them scheduled for an appointment to come into behavioral health as a new patient and to seek out, you know, what their needs were. So I think that's the other big thing is being, when I'm hearing you say that, you know, they're somewhere, and you know.
Yes, they are. And you know, I was thinking, I don't know if you know this, Jennifer, but of course they ask you a million questions when you're getting close, okay? Is there a place where they ask you if you had served time, and not if you're a veteran, some people don't even realize, you know, but if you had served time in the military, because they don't even know to go sign up for the VA, some of them.
They do.
Thank God. That's a good.
And it's on the probation forms now, so the probation officers will get those terms, and public defenders.
That's a good way to get the word out there.
They've done a lot better with that.
Are also doing that now. Emergency rooms rooms. I had to take my mom to the emergency room a week and a half ago, and when the lady asked, "Are you a veteran?" I said, "I'm so glad you asked that question." You know, I work for the VA, so I think, and that's what Lori said in her talk, was that you all in your organizations and agencies make sure that on your assessment that you're asking, "Are you a veteran?"
That's a good thing to pound into the nurse's head.
That's a good thing, that's what I was thinking from Mrs. Smith, that's a good thing to pound into nurses' heads. And that's the whole part of this whole rural nursing piece, because they're the ones that help sponsor this, is to let medical professionals know what are some of the things that will help you to help veterans.
So while you were, before you began recovery, while you were still using, did you seek medical care? Were you hospitalized? What kind of services, medical services did you need?
Oh, I went to the VA. I went to the VA to get my prescriptions, you know, I would go whenever I really needed to go get my ibuprofen, or, you know, it wasn't, probably not as often as I should, but I have been utilizing the VA ever since 2001.
So you didn't utilize the civilian facilities?
I've never have.
Okay.
I never have. I've always been to the VA.
That's where we need to make the nurses aware to ask women, are you a veteran? Or have you served? We don't think about the women serving as much as we do the guys.
That's
Just like I said, you know, the lawyer was like, well, how are you affiliated with the VA? That's how I found out about that work. That is exactly how I found out. He would not have told me that. And he really wasn't, you know, I'm glad that he did. I'm so glad he did that, because there was no chance. I had no more chances. I was born for him.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we can try this. And the prosecutor still was, you know, it took a while for her to decide to let me go. And thank God.
And it was a female prosecutor.
Yes. It was a female cop that arrested me that night. You know, so it was.
Well, just the way that question was phrased from the attorney,
Yeah.
you know, like not like if you were maybe a man, he would have, you know, said, "Are you a veteran?" Like it didn't even, you know,
yes.
how are you feeling? You know, is your husband a vet? Is your dad a vet?
She just put this label on her herself, you know. I mean, that's exactly how you treat me. But you know, he did help me, because I had hired a lawyer originally, and that lawyer died. So I lost all my money, you know. I got my bond receipt back, but that's it. But the reason why he helped me is because nobody would answer any questions about how I was supposed to file a claim against the estate to get my money back. It was going to be a huge hassle. The judge wouldn't answer them. They said to get another lawyer and ask them. So I hired another lawyer, and he said, okay, out of respect to that family, I'll give you the money you lost, but my fees are a little bit higher, so you have to pay the difference.
Wow. Next question, how were your family and friends impacted?
Tremendously. My mother was very supportive. She's never had, you know, she's lived in the projects for 20 years now, so she's on a fixed income. But she was, you know, she always sent me cards, and it was basically the only time I really communicated with her for a while. And my sister, she would always be the one, her and her husband, to come up and visit me and you know, when I was in Rio, if I didn't have a visitor that week, or, you know, if I just, she's like, just call me whenever, you know, I can come up. So she'd always come up, and that was really how I really.
What about during the years that you were really struggling with your addiction? Were you aware of how they were affected at that point in time? And were there services that were available to them? Were they utilizing any supportive services for themselves that you were aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, and no, they didn't. They would just wait till we come.
So they were probably pretty worried.
Very worried.
As community providers, what kind of services would we be recommending to the families of someone who loves someone with an addiction problem? Her family loves you. your mother, your sister, your brother-in-law, but if they weren't aware of services as a community, what services are available for the family members that you all can come up with?
My dad and my mom and my sister, every time they would get a phone call, they were scared to death. They were so scared. They said they knew that was going to be the phone call. I mean, there's been several suicides in my family. My mother, she's been suicidal. My grandmother, her mother. You know, there's several. My uncle. And then at 14, I say I didn't have a suicide attempt, but they considered it one. But it was just 3 bottles of Tylenol, and then immediately I went to my dad and said, I just took 3 bottles of Tylenol, and he rushed me to the emergency room. And from there, I went to a 30-day place, a rehab place for teenagers, suicide, drugs, sexual abuse, and stuff and things like that. We all had. They put me in every group except for the suicide. And like the last 2 days I was there, I finally got into the suicide group. But I got to hear terrible stories. I had to hear terrible stories about those teenage girls that were being sexually abused. That was awful. And then I ended up in the drug abuse, which for some reason when I was a kid I liked that class because those kids were just wild. And then I didn't even want to go back home. I wanted to stay there, but I know that's how much I did not want to be around my dad. And so my dad and I, we have a very good quality relationship, but we don't spend a lot of time together still. And he lives in Tennessee, so. And I don't know whose fault is that. I don't really know. He doesn't call me. I don't hold that against him, but I don't really try to call him much either. Still, and he's very sick now too. So
it's like one person's waiting for the other, and the other's waiting for the other. Well, what do you want, Heather, community partners to know that will help them in their mental health work with veterans? We heard you say earlier, just ask the question, ask if they're veterans. But what else would you like for these folks that work out in the community to know?
The main thing that I can think of is I envy and I just have so much respect for people that did not go into the military, people that did not need the military, or people that could just take over their own lives and just be responsible and make good choices. I mean, I would love to be that way, but some people are not like that. When they join the military, then they don't have to think for themselves. They just do what they're told, and that's easy for some people. It was really easy for me, because then it was all black and white. You had the UCMJ, you went by those black and white rules, and there was no gray area. And if I witnessed ever that, it wasn't like that, then I wouldn't have put trust in it. But it was not like that. Everybody did the same thing. Everybody was treated the same way. Everybody was inspected the same way. It was all standard. Then, whenever I got out, and I felt like I was thrown to the wolves, it was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can decide on what I want to do, and, what I want to do the rest of my life. I can't do that. I got all these options. I have so many options. I needed just 1 or 2 or 3 options, That would have been a lot easier for me to make a choice, but I had so many options. I mean, I had a wonderful job at UPS for 2 years, supervisor. I blew it. I got fired, and that destroyed me. And then my marriage failed. But I still had options. Being a veteran, and everybody wants to hire a veteran, and then plus being a female. I mean, there wasn't even any competition whenever the when the job came available. I started out as a loader, you know, I loaded trucks. And then the job got posted. It was a management position. I could have went anywhere in the world. Part-time supervisor, making great salary. You know, that was perfect. They even pay for your college. They encourage you to go to college. So GI Bill, it was a wonderful opportunity, and I got fired for using marijuana. And if I was still a Teamster, then I would have a union to back me, but once I went management, they really care about their image. And you can't go out to the bar and, you know, make a fool out of yourself and you come back to work.
Sounds like you were talking about having a difficult time adjusting from the very structured,
Yes.
organized military culture into the civilian world. So how can we, as civilians, help other veterans in that transition, transitioning and adjusting from military life to civilian? Because you said, you know, it was structured, I was told what to do, and then I'm thrown to the wolves with way too many options available to me. How could people who have, when you hit the civilian world, you know, and your head is spinning, how can people in the community better assist and be more aware of this adjustment problem with veterans? What could you say that they would have been helpful or beneficial for you?
Well, I know that this is hard, and a lot of veterans, they hide their feelings, but if they are seeking treatment or of some kind, they have a doctor or a VA, then they have the doctor or or EMU, they have to try to get to know the person, though, so that way that maybe they can give them suggestions, of what might be. I mean, I know that, you can't baby everybody and everyone, and so I know that. But it's kind of hard for me to answer that question because I was so just indecisive. I really didn't know. I got lazy, after a few years. Right when I got out, that was good, but then once I lost that job at UPS, I just devastated. I didn't think that I would ever, and then plus getting divorced. I came back here with intentions of doing drugs. I did. I came back, and that was my goal. It really was. That's so sad, but.
Do you all as community providers have ideas or input as to how you, when you work with veterans, how you help them in their transition if you see that they're having great difficulty with adjustments? What do you all do?
I have an answer.
Yes,
as a veteran, I do understand what Heather is saying about having too many choices. So one of the things that I've done is said, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. I think as opposed to saying you can do this, this, or this. Which one do you want? Like it's a smorgasbord of things. But a lot of times, like she said, and even though she was enlisted, I was an officer, at the end of the day, when we get out, we're still veterans.
Very good.
It's not, we don't no longer wear a rank anymore. Now we're equal. And so a lot of times, and people say, well, you're a nurse. So yes, I did have choices as a nurse. However, when I'm seeking services, I don't want a smorgasbord. Just tell me, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. And I think that would help tremendously as opposed to saying, you got all this, go for it. And then you get confused and so you shut down.
Right.
Great suggestion. Great suggestion. Very good. Anyone else with any kind of ideas? You look like you know.
I'll say something.
Yes, you look like you were going to talk, Jennifer. Okay.
Well, for me, in my position, the biggest thing that I do is help coordinate services. So one of the things that I like to do is ensure that somebody has one main point of contact that they can go to help provide information and support along the way, get them connected to what they need to write off, and then be there as a support as they find other things that they need, you know, as they go along. And that's what we do with VJO, with the Veterans Court, and other people who are involved with the VJO program. And we have lots of other programs, Head Bash, our wonderful services we have within our, you know, healthcare center, and then we also utilize the vet center. And so just figuring out, for me, what I think is the most appropriate place for them to start, and help coordinating that so they have a good place and a kind of a good jumping off point to go from.
That's wonderful.
Last question. Please give 3 pieces of advice for family members that may help them better understand what you were going through. And we have no comments or questions. Are we online with them, or they're just supposed to give some answers? Okay. I guess if you're there, Carbondale, let us know if you have questions or comments. The 3 pieces of advice for family members or friends, because some of us, our family might be our extended family and friends.
Well, I think that, for one, don't criticize. You know, everyone is an individual, and just because you may not have, you know, this disease or this problem does not mean that, you know, somebody else, you know, your children or anybody in your family has. So criticizing it just made me just feel like I wasn't even good enough to live on this earth, you know, and so I just felt like I need to go and forget about it again. And so I would just continue to use encouragement. That is huge. And
What's that look like? What's the encouragement look like? I mean, you mentioned your mom sent you cards. I mean,
yes. It was reminding me that I have potential, you know, and that I could do anything that I want. Just like I said, with the drug use, I didn't want to do anything after that. Nothing was enjoyable after that. That's hard to find something, anything else that can make you feel even half as good. I mean, that's really sad. I hate to think that anybody can just always never even try anything else, you know, and then when you do try, it's just, you're still just kind of, you know, at a 2 or 3, you know, in depression. Encouragement, not criticizing, and don't enable them. Do not enable them, you know, don't do that. I wasn't enabled, but I know a lot of people that are, you know. I mean, why would you keep giving, you know, somebody the means to just blow it, you know?
Well, when you talk about that, and we're looking at, you know, what's available for families, Al-Anon is what comes to my mind. Because not only, you know, I heard you say, don't judge me, don't criticize. Well, one of the best ways is to become educated. And Al-Anon helps family members to learn what the other person's going through, how to help themselves, but definitely how not to enable the person that they
I never found out about Al-Anon though until after I started going to AA meetings. You know, I didn't even know anything about AA and AA.
Was that anything that you learned while you were going through the RTP program? Did they talk about the 12-step?
Absolutely.
Or did they discuss for families as well?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yes, they are very, very detailed. That is a wonderful, wonderful facility.
Excellent.
Yes.
Are there comments or questions that from the audience, things that you want to bring up that you'd like to discuss? You've heard Heather's story, or anybody in Carbondale, if you're in Carbondale, or Jasper, we're hoping that you can email us your questions or comments. We're not going to join back up for 15 minutes. We have some more time.
I have a question. So my little sister is actually coming home tomorrow. She's been in Alaska in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
And she is getting med discharge and she comes home tomorrow. She never went overseas or anything like that. But as her sister, what can I do for her? You know, she's pretty tough, and she's not, even if there was problems, which I don't think there are, she wouldn't be the one to admit it. So what can I do, like what can I look for as her sister to help her? If, I mean, it's going to be a big adjustment. Like you said, she joined right after high school, and now she's coming home, and it's going to be a big change for her. So what can I do to help her?
I would just observe her for a little while to see, you know, if she seems how she seems, you know how she was before she went, and then you know, just if there's any signs of, you know, isolation or confusion, you know, you have to be aware of that, and then you'll know. Well, absolutely. If she doesn't go and give it to the VA right away, then definitely encourage that. That is a must. That is number one.
You know, when folks do get enrolled through the VA, we ask lots and lots of questions. We do lots and lots of screening and assessment tools to help Kristen kind of pull up and pull out what might be issues of concern. We do assessments to see if folks have experienced military sexual trauma. We do smoking questionnaires. We do suicide risk assessments. We do assessments to help monitor depression. We do the depression screens. We do everything physical known to man in terms of assessments. And so there are lots of opportunities, but I think you don't just ask one time. And that tends to be an issue. Sometimes thinking, well, I asked the question one time, so, you know, I'm done. You know, years ago when I worked in the OBGYN Peace Clinic at St. Mary's, we had done research and showed that for the women who came into the clinic, you had to ask them at least 7 times about assault on average, before they would admit to it. And so every time that they came into our facility, we had just a little piece of paper with 3 questions, and they all had to do with assault, rape, molestation. And if they said yes to any of those, they were given an opportunity to speak to a social worker. So that might be the other thing, not only for family, or for community people, but for family. Keep asking the questions. Are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? Not bombarding them, but don't just think I asked them one time and they said, nope, all was fine and dandy, that you're done with it. Because that's very difficult, and it's real difficult for the men. You know, there are men who go into the military who experience military sexual trauma. Very difficult for, you know, for them to just say right off the bat, sure I did. So just continuing to assess and ask questions and offer help. And Jennifer, you look like you were thinking.
You can go ahead. Don't feel bad if she doesn't open up to you and she's not the sister who left home. It's not you.
Don't feel bad if she doesn't open up and if she's not the same sister. Right, okay. It might take some time.
Yeah, but that relationship has to be renewed, and it doesn't happen that fast.
Well, and you know, that's what I've heard Heather saying in terms of professionals and people in community. you need to be able to take some time to get to know me so that I might be able to trust you. We can't just whip people in and out and disregard the fact that they need to be able to develop a relationship and a bond with us. Good point. Jennifer, you had?
Yeah, one of the biggest things, or kind of complaints from one of the female veterans that I've worked with before about family relationships when she came back was feeling like her family just brushed off that, oh, you were just gone for a little while and now you're back and everything's kind of the same. And not recognizing that there are experiences that may have changed her. Even if she wasn't in combat, there's still a lot of different things that one might go through. So just like Heather was saying, providing that ongoing support and being willing to listen and understand, and also being willing to listen that maybe she won't be ready to talk about everything when she comes back, but just for her to know that, you know, I know you may have went through some things that I can't understand, but I'm here for you, I think would really go a long way.
Okay, thank you guys.
And I think that by you just asking that question is
The fact that you
I'm
thought of the
excited.
question.
Yeah, you're 10 steps ahead of a lot of people, so.
You kind of have to take time to listen to the stories that are about the little things in life. Like what her day was like and where she went to have fun up in Fairbanks or Anchorage, wherever she went. And because that's part of building that back and finding out about who she's become. It's the little stories that build into any issues.
And she may be just fine, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
She may be just,
And, you know,
Anchorage is a lovely place. It's a fun town to be in.
Yeah.
but I think having the awareness that, you know, she could have things going on is good, but like, I guess I wouldn't like expect her to be doing horribly, you know?
Yeah, oh, no, I don't at all. I mean, I honestly don't even think she is, I mean, I know she's happy to be coming home, and I don't even know if anything will come up, but just if it does, I will, you know, she's my little baby sister,
Social
so.
worker, you're always on guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Any potential problems.
Exactly.
And even if she's, it's something that I've experienced from some of the vets that I've worked with is that they were happy to come back, but when they get back, they realize how different it is, and that it's not what they expected, and that there are so many choices and decisions, and they don't know which way to go, and so just kind of being there to support along those lines too, it might be something that she needs.
Well, it's like any transition. I mean, I don't know, if you know, when you go away to college and come back and your old friends are doing the exact same thing and you feel like you've, you know, gone and done these things that are so great. So, I mean, I think it's, you know, a lot just like any transition where you can support someone, because
Yeah.
it probably is hard to come back from somewhere where you, like you said, you've done all these amazing things and you were somebody there, and now you come back and all your friends are still sitting around smoking pot or whatever it was. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 7 countries and, you know, I'll never see them again. It really breaks my heart.
right, right.
You know, not necessarily. You never know. That's true.
The other thing I would say is, don't ask the question, how are you doing, unless you really want to hear an answer. Because there is nothing worse than me say, how are you doing, and you start to talk to them and you watch their eyes glaze over. That's extremely discouraging. So you say nothing and you end up holding a lot of things inside. So if you're going to ask the question, be prepared to get an answer and don't glaze your eyes over. So otherwise, just don't ask the question.
Good point. Good point. You guys are awesome. You're an awesome group. Any other kind of questions, comments, anything else? I have 2 conflicting times. They told us we would meet in the auditorium at 11, and I'm not sure we're connected till 11:15, but I think we should be there at 11 to be on the safe side. Because the sooner we get in there, the sooner we get out for lunch for those of you and us who are staying the full day. Anything else? We are so glad to have had the opportunity for you to come and talk with all of us. That was a courageous move. Harold and I were calling them all the time, and are you okay? Do you need anything? All 3 of them, and where I would see Heather at work, and I'm like, are you all right? She's like, yeah. Yeah, you would, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we'll be going back to initial auditory.